Bulls continue to dominate this tape. That was pretty much the theme for this week, despite the near-term range. What I've been mentioning over and over again for the past couple of weeks throughout this range here was that the development that we had on the daily chart was quite bullish. So anytime you have a big trend move, price consolidates near that breakout point, that is a bullish development. Now, we were particularly focused on that Wednesday candle because that showed us some signs of exhaustion, but we got more information on Thursday, yesterday's candle, yesterday's daily bar, when price attempted to break down. All of that selling was completely absorbed. And so on Wednesday afternoon, in the end of day recap, what I was talking about was they have an opportunity on Thursday to show that follow through to actually force a breakdown here. There was an attempt, you can see the tail there on that daily candle. There was an attempt to force that near-term range breakdown and just could not be done. The buying pressure was too strong. All of these sellers were absorbed. Price closed on the highs. So we come into today's session. I had mentioned this morning, you can go back and watch the recording, that the more times price tests this area of supply, this 4580 area up into 4600, the more likely it is that price is actually going to resolve higher. So essentially what you have is a bunch of liquidity sitting up here, 4580 zone, and the more times that price goes and retests, all of that supply slowly starts to get absorbed. So you can see the first test here, quickly rejected, right? Another test here, quickly rejected. We actually had a potential breakout attempt here. That failed. So another test. Pre-market this morning, another test. Come into the session, main watch is 45.65. Significance of this level is that it is the near-term volume point of control. Pretty much marks the session low for the day if we're looking at the 15 or 30-minute chart, right? Which tells us all of the volume through this range is actually accumulation. It's not distribution. So there's a reaccumulation pattern. Price resolves higher up through the 45.80, pivot up into that late August swing high, that 4600 level. You can see more buying here into the close. We did have a number of really strong trade opportunities today. The opening drive, this kind of move up through here, that initial push versus 45.65 was pretty solid. Every retest at 45.65 is definitely a buyable dip. I did see some of the guys shorting versus 45.80. Decent trade there. Not my favorite personally because it is counter trend, but that is a trade that works. Ultimately, later in the morning, later in the afternoon, we just have price resolving higher, right? From there, pretty much a lot of chop, but this is not necessarily a bad sign. This just shows that 4600 is being accepted, right? Remember, every other test of this area was quickly rejected. So now we have acceptance up here through that 4600. That pretty much takes us into Monday. What is next? So we're just looking for, anytime we have that near-term range breakout, we're just looking for a continuation move into the next area of resistance, the next area of supply, which will be found probably right through here, 4630. Look at the volume through there. So those blue lines you see through the candlesticks, that's a weekly profile. That tells us where all the volume was traded for that particular week. So 4635 would definitely be a level of interest. And then, of course, the July high. That is the target for the change in character for the 4-month downtrend breakout that started pretty much almost a month ago. So we'll be looking at potentially a test of the July highs next week. That is about a little more than a 1 ATR move on the weekly, so maybe just shy of there. But it is starting to be within reach. So Monday, just looking to see if buyers can continue to pay up through today's high. So that was the move on ES. As far as individual names, one of the themes I've been noticing and talking about throughout the week is that we are seeing a lot of those individual names with big daily and weekly bases starting to break out, which is definitely something that is also bullish for the index. And long term, right? This is like a multi-week, multi-month type of thing that we need to, it's kind of a thematic play that we need to be keeping an eye on. And so the individual names list, we had Airbnb, big move today, likely some news that triggered this. We'll be looking for the second day. But when I zoom out here again, very tight range. Yes, it is drifting higher, but this is just a range play, potentially starts to resolve higher. We do have a firm as well. This is a big base, right? Already getting that move underway. So if this corrects here, yeah, we do have a big base here, starts to resolve higher. Take a look at the weekly on this one. It becomes much clearer, right? So big weekly base starting to resolve higher, gets put into that that stage 2 cycle, that markup cycle that we like to see, that trend higher. So a firm, just a continuation play, killer setup there today. This is a textbook inside day on big volume. You like to see this type of reaction when you have an inside day breaking out on big volume. So definitely, if you like trading the individual names, I would be studying this setup. This is a textbook example of what you want to see with an inside day breakout. That's a firm coin continuation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these just because we have been talking about them repeatedly. But again, look at the base. Big base begins to resolve higher into a trend higher. Again, looking for that continuation in this one today. Another killer name on the list today, CRM as well. Second day play. Again, another textbook second day play type of trade. If you're watching here, what I do want to remind you is on the second day play, you want to look at that first day volume point of control. If price is holding above that volume point of control, yeah, it's definitely a long. That's exactly what we saw today. Pretty much opens near that first day volume point of control. Never looks back, right? So that's a solid opening drive type of trade right on the trigger. No coincidence there that it is the psychological level. So another setup worthy of studying if you are into trading those individual names. That's CRM. We also had the DOCU sign. So potentially some news here, but it does have a nice technical setup. Just looking for a second day in DocuSign. And then finally, Upstart, the big range here, big base, right? Starting to resolve higher, big volume today, nice trend move, a lot of action here into the close, pretty much all the volume point of control right there near the highs at 32.35. So we'll see on Monday if this wants to continue higher. That's pretty much the list on individual names. Let's take a look at NQ. I've not been following this as closely lately. So yeah, NQ actually painting a very different picture but compared to ES. But again, what I want to highlight here is that, remember, anytime you have price pushing into that breakout point and then it's consolidating, not necessarily bearish until it actually starts to break down. So remember, the thing to understand here is that price can correct through time. This is what we're seeing here. So price will either pull back if there's enough supply, or it'll just correct through time, which is range, tight range trading. So most likely probability favors this resolving higher, right? Once again, sellers had an attempt to really force a broader sell here, maybe into the 21 MA, but just failed to do so. All of that was absorbed. You have two hammer shaped candles here. So on NQ, what you want to see is 16K psychological level. You want to see action above the 16K. This is essentially 3 weeks of just consolidation. You got, if we take, again, look at the blue line. It's the weekly profile. So we have heavy activity at 15,900 and then 2 weeks of activity at 16K. Right? So big volume node starting to develop here. This can fuel the move for the next leg higher. So NQ pretty sleepy the past couple of weeks. Decent action there. Seeing the guys trading it. Some decent action, but as far as, you know, these big legs that we like to see out of NQ, wait for this range to be resolved. It'll likely take place up through, well, frankly, most likely through this Wednesday's high. the November 29th high. You can really start to trigger probably a big pool of liquidity up here, start to trigger that next leg higher. So that's the list. Hope everyone had a great week, a good start to the month. I will see you Monday morning for the pre-market prep live stream, and keep your eyes peeled for the weekly kickoff on Sunday. Have a great weekend. Take care.